Hi, I'm Scody, and today we're going to talk about why Shatterpoint is going to kill Legion. But not really. Instead, we're going to talk about why I feel like Legion will be just fine even after the release of Shatterpoint. Now, you may have seen it across different news articles, YouTube, social media. It's even hit Facebook, which means that it's at least 30 internet years old, that Shatterpoint is going to kill Legion when it's released. At least you might have heard this way long ago back in November when Shatterpoint was originally announced. However, I think Legion is going to be just fine, so the point of this video is to show some reasons why, and also really boils down to who Legion is for and who Shatterpoint is for. So looking at the cost of entry, the core set for Legion is 120 bucks, while the core set for Shatterpoint is 165 bucks. So it, on the surface, looks like Shatterpoint is the more expensive of the two, but when you dig into it, this core set is really only enough for 2 players to learn the game with a learning battle, not anywhere near the 800 point games that are standard with Legion. To get to an 800 point army, you're probably going to need to invest close to $200 depending on which unit and which faction you go with, along with terrain, extra dice, extra components, all of that stuff. So I'm sure that you can make an army for less, but in my general estimation, about $200 is right where a standard army of Legion will be. Whereas when you look at Shatterpoint, while it's 165, it comes with 16 minis, which is enough for 4 squads, which AMG have come out and said that this is enough for 2 players to play a full game. And of course, this includes terrain with multiple levels, which I'm very excited about. It also comes with the rulebook and all of the components that 2 players need to play a game. Now, can you spend more money than, $82.50 on a Shatterpoint army? I'm sure you can. I actually am very confident that you can, considering we have these squad packs coming out, more terrain, very fun stuff. But when you look at cost to entry, you can get the core set, split it with a friend, and maybe you need some extra components, but at the end of the day, it looks like you'll be able to play a game just fine. The next thing that I want to talk about is accessibility. Now, I love my wife to death, but she has the attention span of a bumblebee, so we usually only get through about 3 rounds of Legion. This is because Legion is usually a 2+ hour game with a lot of thought in the beginning, middle, and end, a lot of planning beforehand too. Whereas if we're comparing Shatterpoint to Marvel Crisis Protocol, which I know I probably shouldn't do because they're going to be completely separate games, but I'm going to draw a couple lines in the sand here, so bear with me. Marvel Crisis Protocol average playtime is 45 minutes. Compared to Legion, which is well over 2 hours, this is a much more accessible game. Also, the sheer size of minis is going to change vastly between Shatterpoint and Legion. So Shatterpoint, you could play with, a squad of, let's say, maybe 8 minis. We don't know for sure until the rule set comes out. But Legion, we do know you're going to need multiple units, which include multiple troopers. So there's going to be a lot more units on the battlefield. And then that brings me to the next point I want to talk about is simply play size. So Crisis Protocol as well as Shatterpoint can be played on a 3x3 surface. That's 3 feet by 3 feet, which most people have that sort of space in their house. When you compare that to Legion, which needs a 3 foot by 6 foot area for a standard game, that almost certainly means that you're going to be going to a local game store unless you have a table specifically for these types of board games. I'm not saying this as a dig on Legion, but it's a much more niche community that is going to be playing Legion compared to who can play Shatterpoint when it ultimately comes out. So going back to my original point on who Shatterpoint is for versus who Legion is for those that go to their local game shop. They have a community that they play with. They enjoy painting multiple minis and then showing them off on a tabletop along with their friends, maybe in tournament style, and are willing to invest multiple hours into both the game and the hobby itself. On the flip side, I feel like Shatterpoint is a lot less time intensive, a lot less commitment wise, whereas you don't have to necessarily play with the community. You could just get the core set because your family loves Star Wars. And then at the end of the day, you paint the minis, you have a place to display them because they're a little bit bigger than Legion minis, so they display that much better. And then you can play it as a game night with, roommates, family members, friends that come over, whoever else on a reasonable size table. So clearly these are 2 different groups of people, which is why I am making the argument that Legion is going to be just fine. I don't think anything will replace the tactical nature of Legion. That's definitely one of the main reasons why people love Legion and why it's so freaking popular right now. But I think Shatterpoint is really going to fill in the gaps for the people that want to get into those types of miniature games, but are scared off by the time commitment, and also they're not part of a community yet to play these types of miniature games. So I think this is best said by Michael Plummer, who is a game developer for Shatterpoint. He said, I wanted the game to evoke the same kind of excitement that I felt pretending to be Luke Skywalker as a kid. I want people playing the game to nod their heads and say, yes, that is Ahsoka Tano. So the people that are watching these shows, The Mandalorian, the Boba Fett series, Andor, super excited about Mando Season 3, by the way. Those types of people that see these characters on screen and have since, the Clone Wars era for at least Shatterpoint are going to feel a greater connection when there's, Ahsoka and Anakin on the field rather than Vader and 3 units of stormtroopers and some swoop bikes and that sort of stuff. And this is definitely not a dig on Legion. I love Legion. I love huge armies. I have a wall of clone troopers that I just absolutely love to play with. But what I am saying is that Shatterpoint will appeal to a much greater audience than Legion will. And so that's why I feel like Legion will be a-okay even after the release of Shatterpoint. So which one is for you? Well, I kind of have news for you. If you're here watching this video and you made it all the way to the end, the answer is probably both. You're probably already involved in more than one tabletop wargaming experience, so what's one more? And maybe you're not the wargaming type. Maybe you just really like Star Wars and you like how these little minis look. And maybe you'll play a game or two, but at the end of the day, you just want to have a display shelf full of your favorite Clone Wars characters. Well, then this game is also for you. I'm super excited about Shatterpoint. I think it's going to open the door for a lot more characters. They seem to be a little bit more agile with the release of characters in Shatterpoint than they have been in Legion, especially because of the long-term implications of the addition of characters in Legion. So what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I don't know. Find out in the comments below, I guess, or do all the things and subscribe, like if you like the video. Don't like it if you don't like the video. If you don't like the video, then why are you even here? This is the end of the video. Go on, it's over. Get out of here.